Iran and its militias operating in Iraq issued on Tuesday threats to the U.S., a day after it deployed Patriot air defense systems to the Ain al-Assad base in the province of Anbar and the Harar base near Erbil. The Revolutionary Guards Corps (IRGC) warned in a statement that the slightest mistake by the vicious and adventurous enemies against Iran would be their last, in reference to the United States.
TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donation. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, Jerusalem is making every effort to combat the unrelenting spread of the coronavirus throughout the Jewish state. Yet, according to National Security Advisor Meir Ben Shabbat, the director of the country's Special Corona Task Force, Israel remains in the danger zone in the battle against the contagion. Israeli aircraft allegedly launched a surprise strike against Iranian targets in Syria, bombing several installations in the war-torn country's Homs government. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani declared this morning that the United States had missed a historic chance to lift sanctions on this country over the continued spread and deadly implications of the coronavirus. A statement made as part of the regime's continued propaganda campaign against the Trump administration.
This is the Pill here with the Red Pill News Dispensary. All right, I was just working on a video, and of course, bang, breaking news. Well, as I put, enter stage the red horse of war. This is getting the biblical proportions. Because if this truly does happen, you can guarantee the U.S. military will disproportionately strike Iran on a level not seen in a long time. Now, it sounds like a lot of puffing out of the chest and all that, but when you consider what you just saw, that we already have anticipated this. I mean, the fact that Trump is, first of all, let me read what kind of put the world right now on attention. And you know what I find funny? Under every single Trump tweet, it's like automatic. This guy right here, it's like one of those, like, I don't know, it's something that some media company does, probably funded by Soros. But anytime he tweets, automatically, you know, they post something, and it's always like the first, the second one. Really weird tactics they use. Anyways, as if people don't realize it. Upon information and belief, Iran, again, upon information and belief. And by the way, he was briefed by many of the 17 intelligence agencies, known intelligence agencies today on this matter, by the way, I should add. Iran or its proxies are planning a sneak attack. Again, Iran or its proxies are planning a sneak attack on U.S. troops and or assets in Iraq. If this happens, Iran will pay a very heavy price indeed. Now, as far as Iran paying a very heavy price, if they were to make an attack, I believe that 100%. Now, we've seen Iran back down once Trump makes a red line before, and they look foolish to the world. And I wouldn't be surprised if they back down again. But then on the other hand, it's more than just Iran we're dealing with. As you guys just saw, the reason I played those two clips at the beginning there was to just kind of remind everybody exactly um, what else is going on, that they just you know they do their propaganda and we do ours. Like I said, since the Smith-Munn Act, that's just how it goes. By the way, if someone could just give me a 5x5 or a yes on the audio, I'd appreciate it. I just want to make sure. Anything about the audio. So if they were to do this sneak attack, don't forget, as we just saw, I showed that for a reason. Israel has been bombing in Syria, and in particular,
Aircraft allegedly launched a surprise strike against Iranian targets in Syria, bombing several installations in the war-torn country's Homs government.
So now that's coming from my Israel TV, so they're going to obviously make it sound, not so bad. And this is high alert time. Like I said, Syria is really the war zone. When he says Iran and its proxies, he's talking about them in Syria as well as Iran and Iraq. But I'm telling you, they can launch an attack easy on our assets. And in fact, it sounds like, our intelligence agencies are very, very good. I think it's really like beyond even what we even realize how good they are. And I think that there was a sneak attack being planned. They got word on it. Now I do find a couple things a little bit odd. The 1-5, whether it for I'm telling you, whether it be Q or whether it be the president, the 1-5 the 1 and the 5 that I keep on seeing, whether it's on January 5th, this or at 1:05 or 15, putting them together. This is a recurring thing that I saw all through March. Now, of course, the Ides of March, that refers to March 15th. But here we are on April Fool's Day, and this is no joke, folks. We might be fools in other ways, for allowing ourselves to, potentially have our rights taken away. And I'm working on a whole video, but I just couldn't not report this because through my research that I was also going to add into the video, but it's really not the main focus. But also beyond this, we have Israel striking in Syria. We pulled out of Syria. Now people think of that as like a retreat. No, there's a retreat, and then there's first of all, we actually left troops at certain areas with the oil, and then we do a strategic retreat. This happens all the time. So you do a strategic retreat because that is going to be the battle zone. That is going to be like that no-fly area. And it also happens to fall exact northern Syria. By the way, what ISIS, what they believed? Well, there's a small town in northern Syria that, you know what? I'll even just show you. There's a small town in northern Syria. ISIS last stand in town in northern Syria. This is where they believed they would have their last stand. Although they were wiped, we wiped them right out of there. They're gone. Their caliphate's gone. But they didn't just come up with this out of nowhere. See, it's the last stand. And ISIS is dead but not gone, as it says here. Um, I'm talking more about their belief system. Anyways, there's this town. I want to get the exact name. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. So this is where they felt their last stand would happen, and it would basically be Armageddon. And most people don't know this. A lot of people on this channel do because we've talked about these things in the past, but ISIS and these Muslims actually believed. Do you know who they believed would come from the clouds and save them? Jesus with his army. Most people don't know that. They're surprised when they hear that. I was surprised when I first heard that. But they believed that Jesus would be the one that would come down. Now, their prophet is Muhammad, but the one who would save them in that final hour when they were down to their last few hundred men, even less, I forget exactly. I read all of their ideology years and years ago. But that's what it comes down to. So the meadow outside the small village of Dabiq, Syria, is a strange setting for one of the final battles of the Islamic apocalypse. That is where we are seeing a lot of this bombing and a lot of this war occur. There was a ceasefire between Turkey and Iran. And Syria, the government of Syria, which is really backed by Iran. And here's the key: Russia. So we're talking some major players. This isn't just us kind of, puffing out our chests and Russia has strategic assets in Syria that cannot be. They're not just going to give them up after all this time. So this is in a prophecy attributed to Muhammad. The prophet predicts the day of judgment will come after Moses defeat Rome. And by the way, they refer to the U.S. as Rome. By the way, we would be like the modern day Roman Empire. Two places close to the Syrian border with Turkey, which is exactly what's going on right now, right after this pandemic. No matter what you think of it, and I do agree that it's being overblown, used for fear. The media is overblowing it, but in my opinion, it's real. I don't think it's as deadly as they're putting out there. In fact, the numbers show it isn't at all, not even close to as deadly as they're making it out to be. And I'll be going over all of that. I mean, I have a video planned where it's like literally like limitless information. It's just been so long that I have like this file, and I just keep putting these key things in there. And all of a sudden, two major things came up. So I have this, and then I have another breaking video that I don't see anywhere on YouTube, and it's huge. So I would stay tuned. I have a huge video, breaking news on something so big. You know what? I'll let the video speak for itself. But first, this was more immediate, and I wanted to let you guys know about exactly what's going on, what ISIS believes as far as Dabiq, Syria, and how that is attributed to the prophecy from Muhammad, and how the Muslims will then proceed to conquer Constantinople, modern day Istanbul. Now, okay, so that's the Muslim belief. But then, of course, us Christians, we have the belief, and if we believe in the Bible, in the end days, Damascus will lie in ruins. And that would be the moment that we know that is when we would know. That would be another sign. We have many, many signs. And Damascus, a heap of room. There's an end time prophecy in the book of Isaiah that says Damascus will cease to be a city and will become a heap of ruins. Now, Damascus is more to the south, right? We have Israel bombing them. They just right now, they're just bombing them overnight. Overnight. So I guess it would be like only like a few hours ago. Meanwhile, we moved our Patriot missile defense batteries into that region, which I was trying to show you guys from like a Iranian. This would be like a. This video is almost like a pro. As you see there, as you see at the bottom, Iran's warning U.S. and all that about this Patriot battle about this Patriot battery. Yet, this has been something that we've been talking about and has been planned since January. So, guys, my audio is all good, right? The audio is good, guys. Okay, so I think you guys would let me know if it wasn't. Okay, so can someone just say audio good? Okay, so we've been first of all planning putting these Patriot missile systems right there, exactly where we are putting them for a long time now. Let me get. We have been planning this for a long time. This isn't new. This is nothing new. Since January, we have been talking about putting these exactly where we are putting them. So this is not like we're not reacting to anything all of a sudden. Okay. So with all those angles, let me add an even deeper angle. And this was going to be part of the video, but it doesn't matter. I've talked about this before. And that is what's going on with our allies, Saudi Arabia, and again, Russia. Okay? This is why this can get out of control, people. Now, this is when it comes to oil. Saudi Arabia said, hey, if you're not part of OPEC, guess what? Yeah, no oil. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, not no oil, but you have to pay extra for oil. And you guys see the price of oil is so low because, well, people aren't using gasoline as much, but also Saudi Arabia cut the prices so low. Yet, when it comes to Russia or countries not part, which they are not part of OPEC, and any other country not part of OPEC, they have to pay extra. And so there's been this back and forth thing with Russia and Saudi Arabia, which, by the way, again, biblically, this is exactly how they say it would line up. And people for years would say, but the thing is, the Saudi Arabians would never align with Israel. Jordan would never align with Israel. The U.S., yeah, we're considered like the Rome or even some Babylon. Or it's just, but anyways, in the Bible they use all their old name, and then Iraq would never align with Israel, but then they were like Iraq, for instance, would be Mesopotamia, Iran would be Persia, and so on, and Russia would be Gog, leader of Russia, Magog, right? So but they say that Magog, they would come down and occupy. I forget what they called Syria, but regardless, that's even besides the point. But they would occupy Damascus. Who occupies Damascus? Yeah, Russia and Iran, but the main player is Russia. The main power is Russia. Otherwise, us, Israel, and the U.S. would be there. Instead, we've taken a different approach where it's a strategic retreat. Israel's doing their thing in the air. We don't hear about it here in the U.S. unless you're searching for it. We don't hear about it. And now with this huge distraction, the war drums are beating. Okay, they're messing around with the oil. Saudi is cutting the prices to anybody not in OPEC. Oh, who's not in OPEC? Oh, the people on the other side. We have Russia and Iran and Syria, the government, whatever. They're not an actual power, but they are backed by actual powers. And we take out solemn meaning. Very strategic. People say, "Oh, he just gets replaced with another general." Listen, what that general did, he was a bad guy, that's for sure. Killed a lot of Americans. If you care about Americans, he was a bad guy. And as a former, U.S. serviceman, but yeah, I was happy when that happened. That's for sure. And strategically, it was perfect because Iran backed down. They tried to save face, but the world saw it for what it was. Even their own people, when they shot down the 747, whatever, when they shot down the airliner, which was mostly Iranians, most of them, it would say like, "Oh, so many Canadians, so many Germans." That's kind of our way of propaganda. When in reality, it's just dual citizenships. So a bunch of dual citizens of Iran and other places, and then just Iran citizens as well, all trying to leave the area before. Remember, everyone was thinking war at the time. So all this is going on at that time. They try to save face. They shot some missiles. They claim they killed X amount of Americans, some ridiculous number. Ended up being zilch. We covered that live as the missiles were flying. We were covering that live here at the Red Pill Dispensary. And I've been all over this, and I've had my eye on it. And it's really been because of what Saudi Arabia did with the oil and what that means for Russia. And especially at a time like this. And the countries that are really close to the vest and not reporting their actual cases are actually Saudi Arabia was one of them. But besides that, but they're an ally. So besides them, China, which we know, which I have some staggering information about China. China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. I mean, North Korea, I feel like nothing gets out of there. But with them being like talk about third world country, they're like fourth world. You know what I mean? Like they are just so far behind. I can only imagine what that virus would do to them. Now, again, guys, I really want to save a lot of this because I've done a lot of research for a show just on the virus. But the death rate is way lower, than you think. I'll just say that. And however, if you have like really crappy healthcare, which North Korea does, the death rate, they'll have a lot more deaths than they should. A lot more than they should. So, you have all this. Russia's not reporting their deaths accurately at all. Same thing with China. Iran, slew of deaths, including they have one thing with Iran is they have a bunch of deaths inside the in the top ranks of their government. So Iran is kind of in a desperate spot. all of that, they've lost the general who was able to connect Shiite with Sunni, and Sunni with even like Saudis to some point, to be able to run a war in Yemen against Saudi Arabia, while at the same time, go after Americans in Iraq with proxies, Sunni proxies in Iraq, and then of course, he's Shiite, but he he had all the connections. That's what made this guy special. You can't just replace a guy like that. So now they have all these proxies, but they are kind of like, there was a random attack by Iran that was unsuccessful. What was it? What was it, like 3 weeks ago? That was actually, I think that literally, and this is how it was reported as well, that was just like a rogue group, a group that went rogue since Soleimani was killed. So a lot of these proxies, not only are they somewhat rogue, but think about how that can be taken advantage of if the U.S. thinks that, hey, the deep state, and when I say deep state, it's not just like American deep. When people hear deep state, they think of the United States. No, we're talking worldwide cabal. All right, huge percentage are Jewish, by the way, but that's not a knock on Jewish people. It's like they use the Jewish faith as a way to cover up what they're they really take advantage of the Jewish faith. They don't represent your typical Jewish American or even Israeli. So I believe that this virus. First of all, it's man-made. Again, I'm gonna get into this all. I have a whole video plan for that, but this is about the red horse. This is about what's next. The virus has happened. I got a bunch of information, and I have so much that really I'm just gonna narrow it down to the stuff that I feel like you guys haven't heard. But as far as this red horse, I think it's galloping right in. It's just everything's lining up, and every war starts with a what? A fancy friend, if you know what I mean, right? A fancy friend, a Fenway Frank for us here in Boston. You guys catch my drift? You know what I'm saying? They, a funny fact, and it is a funny fact, except it's not that funny. And that's how every war starts, is with one of those. And I worry that with the now, they put a lot of money into the Iran's Revolutionary Guard, and they are the elites and all this, and they do basically the type of stuff that the Navy SEALs and the Green Berets of the U.S. military do, right? They do those kind of missions. Not on the scale of our military, but they, will be operating behind enemy lines, operating in all different countries, operating almost even like our C minus the middle letter A, because they're not even about that middle letter anymore. It's a whole different thing. Bunch of Brennan sleepers. And they go behind enemy lines and cause trouble, kind of like what's going on in Yemen, kind of like some of these things. But do you see how, let's say one of our friends, even Israel, even the C minus the middle letter A, they take advantage of that situation where you have a country in disarray, where they have different proxies going rogue. And when you have different proxies going rogue, well, guess what? If we think that the best means to an end is to strike while they're weak, while they're hurting from that, but they get really hurting from the virus. And not just that, like I said, that some of their top government is hurting from the virus. They already just lost their number two. Listen, it could be prime time for it could be just like I said, Fantastic Freddy. You guys know what I'm saying. Every war starts with one. Every single war, including World War II. So look out for that. And for the president to put that out there, he's basically putting the world on notice. Okay? He's basically putting the world on notice and saying, hey, if you happen to see, whether it be in their homeland or proxies in, I don't know, northern Syria, where that town, Dabiq, or I don't know, even more southern Syria, more where the Russians are in Damascus at the port, maybe somewhere like that. I doubt that yet. I think it would first be in their actual country or where their proxies might be in Iraq. I believe that that's where the strike would be from us, but it would be a significant strike, Moab type thing. Okay, that's what it would be. It would be disproportional to whatever kind of sneak attack is going on. So I'm telling you, this is what I've been waiting for. Is I've been seeing the signs, but boom, I just didn't expect it to be so in our face. Upon information and belief, Iran. Let me just make sure I am sharing screen. Oh, I'm not. So good thing I checked. Upon information and belief, Iran or its proxies, that there's a key word there because that could be loosely interpreted. And since we took out basically the general of their proxy army, they are in disarray. Groups are going rogue, and that can be taken advantage of. Just use your imagination. Like I said, every war starts with a friendly folk singer. All right. Planning a sneak attack on U.S. troops and or assets. That's a pretty broad term, by the way, in Iraq. So at least it gets a little more specific right there. And then if this happens, and this part is for sure, Iran will pay a very heavy price indeed. And on top of that, like I said, things that we don't hear that much in America. Speaking about it from either side, just go to the beginning of the video. I started out with that. Israel has been striking Iranian interests and Iranian troops and proxies in Syria. We have Russia backing up Iran and this, propped up Syrian government. We have Saudi Arabia cutting the price of oil to the point that if you're not in OPEC, you're paying more. Russia's not in OPEC. And do you see how this can get out of hand? And not to mention, in the Bible, it talks about who will be on what side. Who's gonna be with the Israelites? Who's gonna? And it's exactly as explained. There was only one problem. Turkey was on the wrong side. Well, guess what? Who just had a ceasefire with, again, Syria, really Iran and Russia, and really Russia. Turkey just had a ceasefire with Russia after, and it was very odd because it was something, I believe it was 33 You know what? Let me make sure that I'm saying the right thing. Either 33 or I just want to make sure I got it right. Yeah. All right, check this out. So, February 28th, 2020, 1 month ago. It's been a long month, I get it, but only 1 month ago. Syria war, alarm after 33 Turkish soldiers killed in attack in Idlib. 33. Again, alarm after 33 Turkish soldiers killed in attack in Idlib. By the way, here's the timeline. The Syrian government continued to launch major attacks on rebel groups in northwestern Syria, greater Idlib, which Dabiq is right there as well, with Russian air support. Continued operations have caused over 200,000 refugees to flee the area. Are you guys like, what? This is all happening in 2020? After, like, way after Soleimani was killed and that whole thing, when everyone thought we were going to war with Iran. Well, guess what? That's not done with. You think they know that they did not save face as they attempted. And all of this is going on at the same time while Saudi Arabia is cutting the price of oil to the point of uh, this like market war with Russia where they have to pay extra. I mean, the reason Japan hit us with a sneak attack in World War II, supposedly, by the way, was because we screwed them and basically made it so that they could not last more than 6 months with the oil reserves they had. And it was about oil. On January 11th, Russia announced that a ceasefire had been agreed in the area of Idlib. And that was after, by the way, Turkey struck back. Why don't they have that in here? Why don't they talk about when Syria, I'm sorry, when Turkey struck back? This was due to requests by Turkey for a ceasefire in order to stop the flood of Syrian refugees into Turkey. And if you remember, what they did was they closed their border, but then opened the other side of their border into Europe in order to force Europe and the European Union to step in and say, hey, Russia, it's kind of, it was actually a very smart move by Erdogan. Erdogan. Very smart move to do that, because the last thing the EU wants, because they are on the brink of collapse after Brexit. And one of the biggest things that has countries like Germany upset is all these Syrian refugees that came in that are not adapting to their society well. And now you have another 200,000 on the way and more if this continues. Well, it was smart. What Turkey did was they closed their border, but then opened the other side of their border. And hey, you go right through. You can't stop. Do not stop here. Do not, but go straight into Europe. And that got Europe involved. That got the ceasefire done. So that's been at a standstill. Then on the 18th of January, U.S. troops blocked a Russian convoy from entering the Melon, where U.S. is protecting the oil fields under SDF control. Tensions occurred between the two groups as U.S. soldiers asked the Russian soldiers to, as if like the U.S. so like it's as if this is like back in the old days when you ride up on your horse and listen, turn around, go back to where you came from, Russians. But they describe it this way. Basically, we asked the Russian soldiers to return to Amuda district in northwest Al Hasaka Governorate. And I bet you that is, yeah. So we wanted them to return back up to this area right here. Okay. Um, then on the 28th of January, did I miss something? Oh, I'm sorry. So the Syrian Arab army captured the strategic city of Mariat al Numan. So they did get that before. Let me continue here. Okay, so diplomatic UN dispute. The UN, by the way, the UN right now, and this is going to start affecting us here in the United States. The UN is having a food shortage. All right, this is going to stop being in the news. The UN is having a food shortage on top of all of this. All right, this could be bad news. The UN Security Council is currently having a major dispute over the reauthorization for border crossing points in Syria to deliver aid. The current authorization expires January 10th, 2020. Interesting. In December 2019, China and Russia vetoed the current proposal to renew all four existing crossing points, which are located in Iraq, Jordan, and Turkey. They wish to eliminate all crossing points except the ones in Turkey. Interesting. By January 2020, the dispute was ongoing. All right, On February 1st, four officers and the K&S units of Russia's Federal Security Service were reported killed near Aleppo. Around February 16th, an Iranian-backed proxy group reportedly approached Al-Tanf and were then repelled by the U.S.-partnered Magawir al-Thawra. So look at that. Oh, wow. What a cool graphic. I'm going to show that next. Look at this. Just keeps by February 6th, the Syrian army had captured 139 towns, villages, and hilltops, including the strategic. Oh, we already talked about that. It keeps repeating, though. Let's see. On February 18th, Syrian army. When they say Syrian army, what they mean is the Russians and Iranians as well, but really the Russians and its allies captured over 2,000 square kilometer territory and more than 200 towns. February 20th, Turkish-backed rebels launched another counteroffensive on Nairab with Turkish artillery support. Oh yeah, that was the big one. That was actually very. Turkish commandos were also reported to have been operating alongside rebels in the assault on the town. A Russian UAV was reported to have been shot down during the initial shelling and rocket strikes. Russian planes provided air support to the pro-government forces and struck positions of the advancing rebels. Additional shelling on nearby towns on both the government-controlling and opposition-controlled sides on the front line were reported, with both Russian and Turkish forces involved in air and artillery support roles, respectively. And when they say Turkish forces, they're being backed up by U.S. Supply lines and U.S. air support, as well as mostly the biggest one, intelligence. After heavy fighting, the rebels managed to take full control of the town. However, Russian air support allowed the pro-government forces to eventually repel the rebel assault and recapture Nairab. Russia contacted Turkey and told them to end artillery, and it looks like that's when they made their. Oh no! Wait. The Turkish Ministry of Defense confirmed that 2 Turkish soldiers have been killed, 5 wounded due to an airstrike during the assault, while also claiming Turkish-backed rebels killed 50 Syrian government forces during the battle. The Russian Ministry of Defense said Russian forces destroyed 1 tank, 6 armored vehicles, 5 other vehicles, all belonging to the rebels, as well as the 2 confirmed Turkish deaths. Um, February 27th. Now, this is the one on Idlib. Um, while others, so some gave 50 to 70 killed Turkish soldiers, by the way, resulted in the deaths of at least 34 Turkish soldiers. Now, do you see that? How it says 34 Turkish soldiers? Did I say soldiers, right? At least 34. This is how you know there's certain forces behind it. At least 34 Turkish soldiers, right? Sounds about accurate, but here's how it's reported, right? Check it out. Syria war. 33 Turkish soldiers killed in an attack. They go out of their way. And look, it's everywhere. 33 Turkish soldiers, 33 Turkish soldiers, 33. Here we go again. 33 Turkish soldiers. It's everywhere. When in reality, it's 34 more. But they go out of their way to put their numbers out there. 21, 2-1, They go out of their way. Back to it. I just want to finish this timeline. So there's all this fighting going on. So 16th February, at least 55, look at that, 55 vehicles of the U.S. military convoy have been spotted entering al-Hasaka province in northeastern Syria from Iraq. So U.S. is moving in now. So after the attack in northwest Idlib 3 days ago, which caused the death of dozens of Turkish soldiers, Turkey has declared on March 1st that it was starting a major counteroffensive against Bashar al-Assad's government. They mean they're going to continue with. They're basically ending the ceasefire at that point. So we have 2 Syrian fighter jets who reportedly shot down. Now, did you guys hear about all this? I bet you didn't. There's a reason for it. All right? They're not the only ones who have propaganda or, at the very least, withhold certain information that would alarm the population. So 2 Syrian, which means Russian, fighter jets were reported to have been shot. Well, actually, it might have been said they shot down that easy by a Turkish F-16 on Sunday as the offensive against Syria forces intensified. The pilots managed to eject, however. Okay. The defense minister of Turkey maintained that in addition to shooting down these 2 warplanes in the offensive, known as Operation Spring Shield. He disclosed that Turkey had killed over 2,000 Syrian regime troops. Whoa. So 2,000 troops. And here we go, March 5th. A meeting was held between Vladimir Putin and Erdogan, and they agreed to a military ceasefire. Oh, that's when the ceasefire happened. And at that point, we were up at, again, the repeating numbers, 2,200, at least 2,200 deaths. Sounds like most of them came when those 2,000 Syrians were killed by Turkish fighters, with the U.S. also moving in the northeast, which we saw is Russian territory. In order to fight the coronavirus, the UN Special Convoy for Syria on the 24th of March, and trust me, they're taking advantage of this outbreak, urged for an instant ceasefire throughout the entire country that has been ravaged by war for the past decade. On April 1st, as the Syrian war enters its 10th year, what just happened? No, that's not legit. No, this is okay. Okay, I thought that was legit for a second. I don't even know why that came up out of nowhere. That's weird. Okay, again, to today. I just saw it today. April 1st. On April 1st, today, as the Syrian war enters its 10th year, the death toll recorded in March reportedly the lowest, as there is a fall in the number of civilian casualties, according to the Observatory of Human Rights group in Syria, a total of 103. There's the 1 and 3s again. The 1 3, 1 3 1, 1 1 3 3 1. It's just constant. Was said to have been killed, with 51 of them dying as a result of airstrike and shellings. The rights group added that the civilian death toll is less than half the deaths recorded in February, which is placed at 275. Okay. Anyway, so things are about to potentially ramp up though here. So that's what we're going on. If you guys, again, upon information and belief, Iran or its proxies are planning a sneak attack on U.S. troops and or assets in Iraq. If this happens, Iran will pay a very heavy price indeed. All right. And let me just make sure nothing has broke in the last few here. But look at that. He's not. He's got generals with him. These are not the like they got that one guy with the lisp. This might be worth checking out here. Let's check it out. Let's check it out together. Let's listen together. And just so you guys know, I'm just going to announce this now, and I'll announce it again at the end. I have a bombshell. I have to drop this bombshell before I can do my coronavirus video. It's a bombshell. It's going to cut into the views of this video, but this video is more like a heads up.
Well, that was a very big response. We knocked out a lot. They hit one site, we hit 5 big ones and ammunition sites. You saw what happened. And I won't say how many people were killed, but some bad people were killed, and a lot of them. That was a big response. But this response will be bigger if they do something. Yeah, I do have one question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Just going back to your conversation with President Xi, wondered if you received an intelligence report that talked about the discrepancy in the numbers, and if you addressed that with
We have
President
not
Xi.
received that, but their numbers seem to be a little bit on the light side, and I'm being nice when I say that, relative to what we witnessed and what was reported. But we discussed that with him, not so much the numbers as what they did and how they're doing. And we're in constant communication with, I would say the biggest communication is myself and President Xi. The relationship's very good. Look, they're spending, they will be spending when things even out. This is obviously a little bit of a hurdle, what's happened over the last month. But they'll be spending $250 billion buying our product, $50 billion to the farmers alone, $200 billion to other things. They never did that before. So we have a great trade deal, and we'd like to keep it. They'd like to keep it, and the relationship is good. As to whether or not their numbers are accurate, I'm not an accountant from China.
Ain't things at all in terms of the trade deals?
No, because people just don't know. People don't know where did it come from. I think we all understand where it came from, and President Xi understands that. And we don't have to make a big deal out of it. We didn't like the fact that they said it came from our soldiers, and they haven't pursued that. And that was a mid-level person said that. That was not a high-level person. So I will always assume the best. I'll assume the high-level people didn't know about it. It was a foolish statement. So look, the relationship with China is a good one, and my relationship with him is really good.
Can I follow up just on that point on Chinese propaganda that you mentioned, as well as Ambassador O'Brien? So in the past several weeks, China has been shipping PPEs, masks. They've either been selling or donating everywhere: Africa, Europe, Italy, Russia, and really pushing this narrative that they're taking on a global leadership role in the crisis. So what are your thoughts on that? And is there any plan for administration?
I view that as a positive if they're helping other countries. We have 151 countries right now that are under siege by the virus, under siege. Some are doing really badly. They don't know about social distancing. These are countries that aren't highly sophisticated. They don't have great communication with the rest of the. Thank you very much, everybody. So, America continues to wage all-out war to defeat the virus, this horrible, horrible virus. You see how terrible it is, especially when you look at the numbers from yesterday. And we explained why we're extending our nationwide guidelines to slow the spread 30 days. Together we have the power to save countless lives. We are attacking the virus on every front with social distancing, economic support for our workers, rapid medical intervention, and very serious innovation, and banning dangerous foreign travel that threatens the health of our people. And we did that early, far earlier than anyone would have thought, and way ahead of anybody else. In this time of need, I know that every American will do their patriotic duty and help us to achieve a total victory. As governments and nations focus on the disruption and seizures of drug shipments and provide additional support in so many ways, say a few words. And also with us our Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Gilday, who I think you know, and Commandant of the Coast Guard, Admiral Schultz. So I'm going to ask Mark to start, and then we can go. And after that, we're going to take questions as it pertains to this, and then we'll go on to phase 2, which is the virus itself. Okay? Thank you. Please, Mark.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today as we make this very important announcement. At a time when the nation and the Department of Defense are focused on protecting the American people from the spread of the coronavirus, we also remain vigilant to the many other threats our country faces. Today, at the President's direction, the Department of Defense, in close cooperation with our interagency partners, began enhanced counter-narcotics operations in the Eastern Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. This initiative is part of the administration's whole-of-government approach to combating the flow of illicit drugs into the United States and protecting the American people from their scourge. I want to thank all of our partners in this effort, to include the United States Coast Guard, the Department of Homeland Security, the Drug Enforcement Agency, the Department of Justice, and members of the intelligence community for their tremendous support and cooperation. To conduct these enhanced operations, the President has directed the deployment of additional ships, aircraft, and security forces to the United States Southern Command area of responsibility. Included in this force package are Navy destroyers and littoral combat ships, Coast Guard cutters, P-8 patrol aircraft, and elements of an Army Security Force Assistance Brigade. These additional forces will nearly double our capacity to conduct counter-narcotics operations in the region. Additionally, 22 partner nations have joined us in this fight, bringing with them a variety of intelligence and operations capabilities needed to defeat these criminal organizations. Last year alone, the United States Southern Command's operations resulted in the seizure of over 280 metric tons of drugs, much of which was designated for shipment to America. While this was an incredible achievement, there is much more activities. We must do more to prevent these drugs from arriving at our shores. And we are at war with the drug cartels as well. But this is the United States military. You will not penetrate this country. You will not get past Jump Street. You're not going to come in here and kill additional Americans. And we will marshal whatever assets are required to prevent your entry into this country to kill Americans. So right now, the Navy has marshaled additional gray hull ships from both PACOM and EUCOM and for the naval fleet at Norfolk. And they are set sail already, and they are in the Caribbean right now. In addition to that, there's 10 Coast Guard cutters and there's Special Operations Forces and Security Force Assistance Brigades, along with Air Force reconnaissance aircraft. The bottom line is you're not going to get through Now is not the time to try to penetrate the United States with illegal drugs to kill Americans. But with the United States military, we will defend our country regardless of the cost. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President. Thanks for your decisive leadership as we confront this unprecedented challenge posed by coronavirus. I'd like to thank you for your support for this important initiative and thank all of the Mexican cartels. Their trafficking is largely responsible for the deaths, as we all know now, of 70,000 Americans a year. And also the cost of this don't count the destroyed families, the destroyed lives, the draining of our national treasure as state budgets are crushed by the burden that this narcotic trafficking causes. The president has made clear that we are in this fight against the cartels to win, and that we are not interested in half measures, and that the threat posed by the cartel is not just a law enforcement threat, but a national security threat as well. And in December, building on your success with the Mexican president in forging a cooperative relationship in the area of immigration, you asked me to go down and meet with President Lopez Obrador and our Mexican counterparts to see.
First of all, I just want to say I've been waiting for this. Our military to declare war on the cartels. This is huge. Yet, this could also be a front for us to shore up our defense with things potentially to come, with the warning from the president about Iran. As far as on face value, declaring war on the cartel, I mean, you don't just declare war on the cartel and not follow through. That will definitely be happening. But I think it's a two-pronged approach to also shore up defenses as we potentially have this ongoing conflict coming to a head potentially, as the president put in that tweet.
Because of the superb work done by the Defense Department and our intelligence community, we know exactly most of the time where these traffickers are at sea. But we're have been up till now significantly hundreds of tons of cocaine now we're now in a position to seize. So this is going to radically improve our interdiction efforts and put tremendous pressure.
Interagency operation will address a range of threats to our national security posed by narco traffickers and narco terrorists. It will reduce illicit financial support for drug trafficking that provides the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela and other bad actors with the funds necessary to conduct their malign.
It's not that it's increased, we've probably got it down a little bit, but it's still a tremendous number. Families are being ruined, lives are being ruined. It's an incredible thing, especially as you're at this position. You would never believe it. I see things that nobody would believe. I see reports that nobody would believe. So I met with the group behind me, all of them, and we said, what do you think we can do? And they think they can interdict. They think that we can stop it before it gets to the shores. And they're coming from all over the place. And we have incredibly talented people. So I think I'm going to let Mark just give them a little bit of an answer to that. But we just want to see if we can stop a good percentage of the drugs coming into our country.
Sure thing. Thanks, Mr. President. So first of all, it's simply a matter.
I find it odd how almost pretending the president didn't just put out a warning of a sneak attack by Iran and a huge response by us if this happens.
In this case, we had scrutinized our inventory fairly closely. The Chairman Milley did a great deal of work on this with Admiral Gilday, and we felt that there was no risk to the fleet, to our operations, to free up, in this case, naval ships. We also free up aircraft. and other assets to apply them to this presidential priority. And of course, the Coast Guard did the same. So it was a very good operation. We feel this is very important for the American people and completely in line with the president's direction.
How long will you be able to keep up this operational tempo?
Well, it depends. What we're going to do is we're going to run it for some matter of time. I'm not going to disclose how long it will be, and then we will assess it, and then we'll make adjustments from there. We may increase, we may decrease, we may sustain as is, but this will be an assessment we will do as an interagency team. We'll report back to the president, and we'll take further guidance from there.
They do it for this reason, but it'll also have an impact on the virus because we have people trying to get in. So not only drugs, but now we have a new phenomenon, and that's at least for the next, hopefully, short period of time, the virus. So we'll be able to have an impact on that too. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. President, could you expand on that a little bit?
Anything to hurt our troops, they're going to pay a price. No, they did last time. You know, whatever they wanted, they were bringing drugs of any type. We didn't make a big deal. Now it's very hard for them, and it will get harder and harder. But the president of Mexico is a great guy who's really helped us a lot. 27,000 soldiers. We've deployed them elsewhere, including bringing some back home.
Do you think tweeting about it?
We have information that would
Okay, here we go. I was just searching through the speech, and this is what I was looking for.
The intelligence indicating that?
I cannot tell you that. I know the end.
Are narco militants such as the FARC 57th Front out of Colombia or the Maduro regime, do you know if they're working in conjunction with the Mexican cartels? Is there any intelligence indicating that?
I cannot tell you that. I know the answer to that. I believe I do, but I cannot tell you that. We have information that would lead us to believe something very powerfully, but I cannot tell you the answer to that. Yeah, please, Jim.
Mr. President, have U.S. forces in Iraq taken any precautions because of this particular attack? And have you?
They're taking precautions, and we are watching it very closely. And if something bad happens, it's going to be very painful for the other side.
Been in touch with the Iraqi government about this?
They know about it. They know.
Are they offering additional protection or
We'll
anything?
see. We'll see what happens. But we're down to a small force now. Over the years, since I got, we've been bringing smaller and smaller, and we're down right now to a small number. But we have very powerful air power there. We have the big base, and which will, nobody can get near it. Nobody can even get near that. But we've really largely left. We've taken tremendous amounts out, and we've deployed them elsewhere, including bringing some back home.
Do you think tweeting about it will help prevent that from happening, or perhaps it'll send the heads up?
It's social media. It gets out. I have, hundreds of millions of people. Number one on Facebook. Did you know I was number one on Facebook? And I just found out I'm number one on Facebook. I thought that was very nice, for whatever it means. It represents something. And when I can explain to people, just don't do it. It's going to be bad if you do. It's going to be really bad, and they don't need to do it. They have enough problems. Iran has enough problems without doing that. But we've been pulling back very substantially over the last year in Iraq, and so that's the way it is.
You said before you don't want to give the enemy, whoever that is in this case, a heads up. Do you feel like maybe you did?
No, I'm just giving them a warning. It's not a heads up. I'm giving them a warning. There's a big difference. I'm saying if you do anything to hurt our troops, they're gonna pay a price. Now they did last time. As per the question, they did last time. We didn't make a big deal out of it, but we hit very, very hard 5 massive, major ammunition sites, and a lot of people went with it. A lot of bad people, a lot of enemy went with it. And we didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but they paid a big price. They'll pay a much bigger price this time if they do anything.
Yeah, we have Admiral Field Day here. Perhaps we can ask a question about what the plans are for the Roosevelt, sir.
Sure.
In terms of Roosevelt, we're making great progress in terms of testing and also moving people off the ship. So in the past day or so, we've moved over 1,000.
All right, so that's more in regards to there were some on the Roosevelt. There were some um, cases of the virus. So, anyways, I think that there was a good about it, and while being questioned, I was actually very surprised to see that the when I saw all those generals, and then you see, you know, the Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper. Uh, you're thinking, okay, this is going to be a big announcement about Iran, and it turns out it's more so about these cartels, and they're declaring war on the cartel. Which, like I said, I think it's a double prong approach. It's also going to, if we are shoring up our defenses against drugs, which he kind of said without saying these cartels are working in conjunction with Maduro. Maduro's helping the cartels. So, but also at the same time, you're not just shoring up your defense against these drugs, but against potential attacks on America, which there's been rumored to be. Like I said, the president himself on Twitter. I'll show it one more time, and that'll be it. But the president himself, and I'll use his words here. Upon information and belief, Iran and/or its proxies are planning a sneak attack on U.S. troops and/or assets in Iraq. If this happens, Iran will pay a very heavy price indeed. Okay, so with that, this is the Red Pill dispensary, and I just want to remind you guys, as does Philly. Hi, Philly. I have a huge breaking announcement to make. I've told you guys in past videos, while all this is going on with the virus, I'm looking now. I've done some extensive research, and I have that part 2 video coming. Pertaining to the virus, a lot of great information. I'll be more focused on the type of information that you may, but most likely have not heard. Less known information. A lot of us, a lot of people aren't working. They're home. They know the basics. I don't need to explain that stuff to you. I'm here to bring you guys the stuff that you probably haven't heard. And also some you'll see. But I have to say, before I do that video, I have a breaking huge story that I'm going to be dropping right here on this channel. So stay tuned for that. Put it this way, I'm reading a report right now that's very, very long. Once I finish reading that, I'm kind of skim reading, but it's so long. I'll be dropping the video. I just want to make sure that I have a firm grasp on it, and then I'm going to drop it. And I'm pretty sure I'll be able to say you heard it here first, the Red Pill Dispensary. Anyways, the white horse is ravaging our country, and there's rumors of war. And I don't know if the red horse is going to be galloping or not, but we have declared war on 3 fronts right now: against the virus, against cartels trying to bring drugs, and a warning against Iran. While, as I explained earlier in the video, there are so many other conflicts going on that all it takes is one spark, and Turkey, Saudi Arabia, the UK, the US, Jordan. Now, UK is not involved, but these are all, like, biblically, if you consider us Babylon, as they would say, we're Babylon. And on the other side, and as well as Israel, And then you have the other side, Iran, Russia, Gog, which Magog occupies Damascus, as is the case right now, in Syria. And those are the two sides, and also some others that, I think like Yemen, whatever they were called back in the day, they would also apply. Yet, like, people would say things like, well, how would it ever be that Iraq and Saudi Arabia would side with Israel? Well, we're in that spot, Mesopotamia. And what's the old name for Saudi Arabia? Is it Arabia? I don't know what it would be in the Bible, what they would call it. But things are lining up, and it's alarming. It's alarming. So prep up, pray up, and stay frosty. Red pill dispensary. Stay tuned. You know I don't say something's a bombshell if it's not. Bombshell. Incoming. No pun intended.